You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of March 13th, 2026. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we don't read entrails or the Ouija board to divine the future. We just look at what's right in front of everybody and where it's going. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
We start today with breaking news from the Signs and Portents Department.
Ooh.
This is from Virgil in 29 BC, describing celestial signs before the death of Julius Caesar. Quote, "Never did lightning flash so often from a clear sky, nor were such fearful comets seen." Unquote.
And this from Pliny the Elder, 77 AD, quote, "Comets are dreadful stars. They appear suddenly and portend great events," unquote.
And this from Scientific American 2 days ago. Quote, "Stunning video shows huge fireball blazing over Europe." A large bright meteor fell over Europe on Sunday, with some observers saying they could hear the rock's explosive descent from the ground. A massive fireball streaked through the evening sky over Europe on Sunday, showering at least one German town with debris and triggering an investigation into the size of the object. The European Space Agency's Planetary Defense Team, which is leading the investigation, and as Driftglass said when we were going over our show notes, I want a T-shirt from the European Space Agency's Planetary Defense Team.
Absolutely. That goes top of my stack if I get that. Yep.
They currently estimate that the fireball was a few meters in diameter. Apparently, the event was audible from the ground. That is amazing.
Yeah, sonic boom.
And the fireball was visibly glowing for about 6 seconds, which I believe in comet terms is an eternity.
Yeah.
So that's unquote.
And now we know who will win the Battle of Hastings. So,
something's going to happen this year.
Something will happen. There will be events happening. And, but nobody looks to the heavens for predictions anymore. But there's still, weirdly enough, an army of paid professional pundits who claim to be able to peer into the misty mists of tomorrow and tell you what to expect. And despite the fact that they're nearly always wrong about everything, they go right on earning a very handsome living, forecasting tomorrow and being right on being wrong.
We, on the other hand, do not pretend to possess any special vision or sorcery. We have no insiders feeding us secret information. But we do know that when the temperature suddenly drops and the sky turns green and there is a sound like a locomotive approaching, because we're Midwesterners, it's time to grab the cats and the flashlight and the radio and the box of important papers and head to the basement.
All ask for the basement. And that's what happened in the Midwest just yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, apple-sized hail.
Yeah. Apple-sized hail all across the Midwest.
Apple-sized hail and a tornado. For a moment, it was a mile wide.
Yeah.
The tornado. It was north of us. It was quite a bit north of us, Kankakee.
But a band that stretched all the way from Iowa through our state to Indiana.
Yeah. Your brother was under sirens.
Yes. Went to the basement.
And we have a listener, David, who is from Indiana. He said that it affected a lot of the trees in his area.
Uh-huh.
And David's getting married, by the way. Congratulations to David and his lovely bride. Listener David, we want to congratulate you guys. Go ahead.
I'm just saying we watched the Storm Chasers on television, and it is easy to forget that that's miraculous.
Yeah.
We had a guy who was quarterbacking on television, and there were like dozen storm chasers out there driving near or around the tornadoes, and was saying, okay, the storm has missed the Aldi, but it might hit the bowling alley in about 2 minutes.
This was Max Velocity on YouTube.
Yeah.
Who is a trained meteorologist, educated person, and also a nerd.
Oh, totally.
And all these guys are just, first of all, they're so committed, they risk their lives to chase these storms.
They do. They're
and
amazing.
The rig they have in their trucks or cars rivals some news divisions.
It's amazing.
Multiple laptops, multiple cameras bolted to their cars, and they're chasing these storms. And then, Max Velocity has live streams of all of them that he's popping up on YouTube, going commercial free during these storms. And then he has this guy, I forget, Claude, it's not Claude, it's something else, who's just this kid with big headphones on who's just listening to the National Weather Service. And they just say, okay, come on in. We got something from this kid. And they said, yeah, Max, National Weather Service now says storm touchdown and blah, blah, blah. Okay, come back to us later. Thanks, Max. Thanks. Okay, Max, I'll come back. It's just hilarious.
It's like
it would be so easy to parody if it wasn't a very serious storm being covered incredibly professionally. On
for free.
A YouTube channel.
For free. And mapping that to actual Doppler radar from above, so you can see where they are, and everything is very like good storytelling. Everything, you know where everything is and everyone is at all times. Yeah,
and he's amazing at geography as well. Like he is very familiar with state lines and where counties are and so forth, like a good weatherman should be.
Well, if this were politics, this would be Steve Kornacki on election night.
I thought of Steve Kornacki while I was watching this. And so, but I think it's Max Velocity is a lesson for all of us in that he's not on, the Weather Channel.
He's not on NBC. He's not on the Weather Channel.
He's not on NBC. Nope. Donald Trump has gutted the National Weather Service. There are weathermen who have quit over this because they can't get reliable data, and they've been trying to privatize the National Weather Service the right has been trying to privatize that forever, so that you have to pay or watch a commercial in order to get the weather. And here you have this kid. I mean, I call him a kid. He's an adult. He's a grown ass man, doing better and more professionally. And yes, the intensity of a night where there are 6 tornadoes running through Illinois is
it's different.
That hits different, but not a beat was dropped. He was on, standing there covering it over and over again, like Steve Kornacki covers election night. On, ready with his numbers, ready with his maps, ready to tell you what's happening. And at some point, he was saying, I can't believe that the National Weather Service hasn't released a tornado warning for this one area of Indiana. What is wrong? What happened? You guys, get to shelter.
Do it.
Get as many walls between you and that storm as possible.
If you're at the menswear store at the corner of whatever, get to shelter now.
And shelter immediately.
It was remarkable. But speaking of signs and portents, if you will, politically in this country, the temperature is dropping and the sky is taking on a nice emerald hue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a distinct sound of freight trains roaring. So let's talk about that, Bible bitch.
Bible bitch.
That's not scriptural. It's kind of perfect that a Senate Republican Twitter account at NRSC, which is the National Republican Senate Committee, that is charged with protecting our Senate Republican majority, because they were the fundraisers for Senate Republicans, tweeted this quote from the Texas Democratic Senate candidate in an eye-rolling, can you believe this clown kind of way. It had a red flashing alarm emoji. Like, we'll show him, we'll quote him, and how ridiculous he is. And this is the quote they decided to amplify on Twitter. Quote, this is James Tallarico. Quote, Christ is the immigrant deported without due process. Christ is the senior deprived of their Social Security benefits. Christ is the protester kidnapped in an unmarked vehicle by plainclothes officers. They found that funny.
Yeah, and that he should be embarrassed by that.
Ha ha ha. How dumb is he? And Tallarico's response was to retweet it and say, I approve this message.
Excellent.
Now listen, this wasn't a joke account. This wasn't a parody account of Republicans. Apparently, and I'm not making this up, the National Republican Senate Committee thought that Tallarico, quoting from the parts of the Bible that conservatives routinely ignore, and the depiction of Jesus Christ that conservatives routinely deny, was some kind of major political error, dude, and we're going to point it out.
And now, for something completely different, a brief history of crazy. And this is going to take a minute, but we're going someplace with it. So You've all heard of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Remember her? Remember Marjorie Taylor Greene? She promoted Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, and white supremacist views, including the white genocide conspiracy theory and QAnon and Pizzagate. She platformed conspiracy theories that alleged government involvement in mass shootings in the United States. She implicated the Clinton family in murder and suggested the attacks of 9/11 were a hoax.
Don't forget Jewish space lasers.
Oh, no. Well, that's what caused all the tornadoes in Illinois, obviously. Because they're mad at Pritzker because, he is Jewish. Before running for Congress, Greene supported calls to execute prominent Democratic politicians, including Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. As a congresswoman, she equated the Democratic Party with Nazis and compared the COVID-19 safety measures to the, my wife is flashing me one finger, and I think I know what that means.
I'm flashing it at Marjorie Taylor Greene, actually.
I thought you were writing in the air with something with your middle finger.
I'm writing, fuck you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, with my middle finger in the air. Yes, I am.
Well, she compared COVID-19 safety protocols to the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust. During the Russian invasion of Ukraine, she promoted Russian propaganda, praised Vladimir Putin, and she identifies as a Christian nationalist. But there's more. She aided. Now, this is someone who got elected over and over again to Congress.
Oh, yeah.
By the dumb shits in the...
She's the top fundraiser.
Yeah.
In the Republican caucus in the House for a couple of years.
Yep. One of the most red districts, and that's where we're headed right now.
Yeah.
She aided and supported his attempts to overturn Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 U.S. presidential election, and has promoted Trump's lies about a stolen election. She called for the results of the 2020 U.S. presidential election in Georgia to be decertified. Just days after Joe Biden was inaugurated, she filed articles of impeachment against him, alleging abuse of power. In response to her endorsement of political violence, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to remove her from all committee roles. On February 4th, 2021, 11 Republicans joined with unanimous Democrats in that vote.
And that's why she's the top fundraiser.
Yeah, because she's a martyr.
She did direct mail to say they're trying to silence me and they're trying to silence you.
She's a martyr, just like Jesus. So, just like Jesus was a martyr, she's a martyr, just like that.
Right.
In June of 2023, she was expelled from the conservative House Freedom Caucus. Too crazy for the House Freedom Caucus after insulting fellow caucus member Congresswoman Lauren Boebert.
Hey, there's the meeting of a mind.
Yeah, who is running I believe, a non-dominant hand job clinic on the weekends. So, in May of 2020, sorry,
Driftglass.
It's after dark, honey. I'm just going to let it fly. In May of 2024, Marjorie Taylor Greene tried and failed to oust Mike Johnson from his role of Speaker of the House of Representatives. The Cook Report rates her former district, remember she's retired, as R plus 19, and that's where we're headed.
R plus 19.
R plus 19. That man. In 2016, the backwards mouth-breathing idiots of the Georgia 14th went for Trump 71 to 26%. In 2020, Trump carried it 68 to 31%. In 2024, it was exactly the same, 68, 31%. Of course, in 2012, Romney carried the district 72 to 28. So, that's just how those people are.
Republicans, yes, right. But then came the Epstein files.
Yes.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene's insistence that Donald Trump keep his solemn promise to release the Epstein files. She banged the drum on this. She signed the discharge petition forcing Mike Johnson to bring the Epstein Files Transparency Act to the floor for a vote. And Trump publicly reamed her out for it.
Mm-hmm.
He called her a traitor. He said it was great news for the country that she was retiring. She's retiring to go make more money.
Well, she wants a political future.
Yeah, she wants a political. That's true. That's true.
She's getting off this sinking ship.
The first lifeboat. She's on the first lifeboat out. Right. Yep. And she's got I have to say, she's got good advice.
Yeah.
I don't know whether she's getting it from her boyfriend, who, is part of some right-wing media.
News Nation or OAN or something
and he's a White House correspondent, too.
Of course he is. They all are.
Yeah, right. But yeah, she's getting good advice. So it was great news for the country that she was retiring, and just like that, she was dead to him. Just because she tried to hold him to, again, one of the most sacred promises he made to his base. And QAnon was a big deal. That linked crazy faith to Trump to protect children, and gave people an identity as good moral people.
Because he was going to be like Cyrus.
Yes,
an imperfect man who was doing the Lord's work on earth. The Lord's
work of uncovering, child trafficking, sex trafficking.
Right. That was his promise to them.
Yeah. Which is just like blood libel and all these other, what's the worst thing you can think of? Well, harming children is horrible.
Yeah.
And so you take that and you wrap a whole mythos around defeating that evil.
And you make sure it's just the Democrats.
And it's got to be just the Democrats doing it. Of course it is. And then you take some gigantic symbol that isn't used anywhere else in a great way. And the swastika was used elsewhere, but the swastika was this gigantic symbol that symbolized defeating Jewish hegemony in Germany, right?
Right.
And here you have the letter Q. One of the most unusual letters in the alphabet in terms of word usage, becoming a symbol for defeating the evil Democrats and their, blood, again, the adrenochrome, taking blood from children to stay young in a basement somewhere.
Right.
And we have to defeat this. And there's this whole weird religion that ties Trump to being the savior of that faith.
That Trump went all in on.
And oh, well, they don't like pedophiles, so I'm all for that. And if they're going to vote for me, then they're mine. And he welcomed them to his rallies, and people carried giant Qs into his rally, and he didn't have any problem with that. And he just let it happen because he wanted power.
That's right. And he got it. And he won.
And he got it.
And it worked.
And he got it. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is Marjorie Taylor Greene had really good advice. She hired herself a stylist and gained a fiance, this guy. And she immediately began her reputation rehab tour.
Don't they all?
Her hair is 10,000 times more healthy than it was when she was on Facebook talking about the Rothschilds back before she was a congresswoman. And for her first stop was The View, at which the panel embarrassed themselves by fawning over her as if she were a particularly clever otter on David Letterman's Stupid Pet Tricks. And don't forget, she was on CNN also, where Wolf Blitzer called her a good mother.
She's a good mother.
She's welcome back anytime because she's not just a good politician. She's a wonderful mother.
Right. Fuck you,
forgetting all the crazy she ever did. Yep.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
You are welcomed back in the fold immediately once you start uttering the magic words.
Yep. And then over to 60 Minutes, where she showed that she had learned the magic shibboleth that gets depraved rabble admitted into polite society.
It's the most toxic political culture, and it's not helping the American people.
But you contributed to that. You were out there pounding, insulting people.
Leslie, you've contributed to it as well with your own program. Yes, you're accusatory, just like you did just then.
I know you're accusing me, but I'm smiling.
You're accusing me.
I am accusing you.
But we don't have to accuse one another.
I want you to respond to what you have done in terms of insulting people, yelling at people, and then saying...
I'd like for you to respond for that. No, you can respond to that.
I don't insult people.
You do in the way you question, and you're accusing me right now.
And the reason we've rehashed all of this is because now we have another data point to add to all of the other giant piles of data points that all indicate that Republicans are in deep shit, and it's only going to get worse.
Not to mention that Rand Paul just went on television and said, we're all in deep shit. And it's just going to be terrible in November. And he just, looked at the camera and said, no, we're all going to lose. It's terrible. This is from the Daily Beast. Quote, the election to pick former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's replacement is headed to a runoff next month, after the Donald Trump-backed candidate failed to secure the majority of support in a crowded race. Republican Clay Fuller, a district attorney, will face Democrat Sean Harris, a cattle farmer and retired brigadier general, to fill the vacant seat in Georgia's 14th congressional district, the Associated Press and other outlets reported. It's a district President Donald Trump won by 37 points in 2024, indicating that even if Republicans did not have such a crowded primary field, Democrats were still able to dramatically close the gap in the district just outside Atlanta. The runoff will take place on April 7th, and Republicans will be looking to consolidate support in less than a month.
Yeah.
Unquote. And the thing that Donald Trump always says after a loss like this, first of all, he pretends it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And then he said, I'm not on the ballot.
Yeah.
Hey, Donald, you were fucking on the ballot.
You're absolutely on the ballot.
Yeah.
Now, will MAGA Republican nut job Clay Fuller win in the April 7th runoff? He probably will. But you know what? Republicans are going to have to spend a lot more money here than they ever thought they would have to do. And they're going to have to do it all over again shortly after that. But the dear leader, this is the important point, ordered the MAGA faithful in Georgia 14th to vote for Fuller to put this election away now. And in this R+19 district, 22% of them disobeyed the dear leader. They didn't vote for the Democrat, or they might have voted for the Democrat, but also not voted for Trump's handpicked choice. And that forced this runoff. And that's the important point.
Not to mention the number of Republicans, and somebody smarter than me is going to have to go back and do this math. We mentioned Steve Kornacki, but the number of Republicans that stayed home in that race.
Yeah.
Compared to the presidential election, which is always the case.
Yeah.
Democrats are furious, rightly furious right now.
Yep.
And that brings souls to the polls. And Republicans are embarrassed.
That's why we're going to pass that SAVE Act, honey. Got to pass that SAVE Act.
Yeah, SAVE Act, right.
We're getting to that. Don't worry, we're getting to that.
So then there is this from New Hampshire via MS Now, which is such a silly name. Quote, Dems score upset win in New Hampshire special election, giving GOP fresh reason to worry. Because they've had plenty of reasons to worry. Now they've got a fresh one. Heading into Tuesday's state legislative special election in New Hampshire, Republicans had reason to be cautiously optimistic. The race was in a district that Donald Trump won by 9 points in 2024, and the Democratic candidate had already run and lost twice before by wide margins. Mm-hmm. And yet the contest turned into the latest in a series of red to blue flips. There have been 10 of them in state house races since Trump was inaugurated in 2025. New Hampshire Journal reported, in what Granite State Republicans hope is not a preview of November, Democrat Bobby Boudman won Tuesday's special election for Carroll County District 7, defeating Republican Dale Fincher 51% to 47% in a district that voted Republican by more than 13 points just 16 months ago. That's people staying home. Mm-hmm. The New Hampshire union leader called the outcome stunning and a big upset, given the Republican advantage in the local district. I always love to see the New Hampshire union leader having to be sad. Mm-hmm. In a press statement, Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee President Heather Williams boasted, Tuesdays are becoming a headache for state Republicans across the country as they suffer one stunning defeat after another.
Yeah.
Unquote.
So this is the important part across a stretch of time, because day after day, week after week, Republican voters are being stretched further and further between all the bullshit Trump promised them, great health care for next to nothing, better jobs, prosperity, cheap gas, free eggs, releasing the Epstein files, and of course, no foreign wars. stretched between that, all the lies he told them, and Trump himself. And right now, in the tug of war between loyalty to the liar and the fury over the liar's broken promises, the fury is gaining ground.
This is why Trump is applying maximum pressure on his congressional lackeys and henchmen to pass the god-awful SAVE Act. He thinks that keeping Democrats from the polls is going to help him win, but he's going to have to bring Republicans to the polls at gunpoint because a lot of them are staying home.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Trump is threatening to not sign any legislation until Congress passes the Save America Act, a bill that would require proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote in federal elections.
And now I must do something I hate doing, but this is reading Donald Trump's social media post announcing this policy, if you want to call it that. Quote, I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed, he wrote on Truth Social on Sunday. And the rest of it is in all caps, screaming all caps. And not the watered-down version. Go for the gold. Must show voters' ID, proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots except for the military, illness, disability, travel, no men and women's sports, no transgender mutilization for children. Do not fail.
Mutilization?
Yeah, he's just making shit up now. Yeah, it and suddenly in the middle of this thing, because it's something that he knows makes the morons angry, we're going to shove in some transgender abuse.
Yeah, of course.
Because maybe that'll get people off their asses to the polls.
Yeah.
And this has been characterized by some wags on the internet as threatening Democrats with a good time.
Yeah. Because as Emma Snow, and again, that's a silly name, said, quote, if the president is refusing to pass his own agenda, given his agenda, that's probably a good thing, said Senator Raphael Warnock, again, one of the hardest working senators in the country. Yep. He and John Ossoff, two senators who are absolutely the hardest working senators out there. Mm-hmm. In terms of constituent services, in terms of walking the walk all the time. Mm-hmm. They are serving their state, and very, very proud of both of them. So he told reporters Monday, it's probably a good thing, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, put down his soup.
He had to put down his soup for this.
He had to put down that soup and put a napkin over it because there's nothing like hot soup on a cold day.
Well, then he put a napkin on the chair to remember, to tell
where
people
where I'm
sitting. I'm sitting here. This is my soup. Okay, don't touch my soup.
He had his flip phone out, but he put that in his pocket for a minute because he had to quickly embrace Trump's threat.
Right.
After the president posted Sunday morning, he wouldn't sign any bills until a beefed up version, meaning throw in some anti-trans shit.
Yeah, and put it in all caps.
The beefed up version of the Save America Act, not the watered down version Trump wrote, becomes law. It's just the latest pressure tactic to pass the bill as Republican senators confront the reality that they either need a handful of Democrats to support the measure to clear the Senate's 60-vote threshold, or they need to change the rules of the Senate to effectively kill the filibuster. Mm-hmm. But Republicans in the Senate haven't even secured unanimous support from the 53 GOP senators. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, a Republican, said last month she opposes the measure. You know why? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Alaskans without photo ID. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of senior citizens in Alaska who move there because there's no state sales, there's no state income tax.
Income tax, right.
And a lot of them don't drive. Mm-hmm. I've been up there. There's a lot of old people there who don't drive. And so she doesn't want this. And she has said out loud that she opposes the measure, let alone there. And so Republicans haven't secured unanimous support, let alone a simple majority to change how the Senate operates, unquote.
And that's why a weakling and coward like John Cornyn finally buckled and bent the knee to the dear leader. This is from NBC just yesterday, I think. Quote, Senator John Cornyn flips on the filibuster to pass Save America Act as Trump weighs endorsement. Cornyn, who spent years defending the filibuster, is locked in a competitive GOP runoff in Texas against Ken Paxton, who has aligned with Trump on the issue. unquote.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
They're all terrible.
That's an easy flip for him because he knows that there's enough senators to stop that from happening. And so he can, lick Trump's boots by saying, I'll break the filibuster for you if you'll endorse me, because he wants to beat Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton. Texas.
Yeah,
You want to send Ken Paxton to Washington to represent you?
Yeah, to Paxton and Cruz. There's a pair from Texas.
Yeah, you're going to send Paxton and Ted Cruz.
That used to have Governor Ann Richards.
Yeah.
Used to produce people like Molly Ivins.
Yeah.
Now the bottom of the barrel.
Not just in terms of manhood, but in terms of corruption.
Just corruption, sleazy.
And not giving a shit about you, Texas.
Right. They don't, of course,
neither one of them gives a shit about you.
No, they don't. But, Republican voters, honey.
Contrast that to Georgia.
Yeah.
Contrast that to John Ossoff, who is in Georgia working among his constituents every time there's a break in the Senate. Mm-hmm. He is home on the ground, not leaving for Cabo or wherever. I can't. Ask Ted Cruz how much he's done for rural hospitals in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to add Ken Paxton.
Yeah.
The tension between the base's fealty to Trump and their fury at him, breaking his most solemn promises to them for no explicable reason, is so great that the New York fucking Times had to turn to a second-tier news radio background character and bug-eating contest show host to explain the state of the mind of Republican voters. This killed me.
Yeah. Yep.
Quote, Joe Rogan says, this is the New York Times, people. Yeah. Joe Rogan says Trump supporters feel betrayed by Iran war. Joe Rogan, the influential podcast host, said on his show Tuesday that the war in Iran... Wait a minute. That means that a New York Times reporter was listening to Joe Rogan and writing about it for the newspaper.
Of course. It might have been, I don't know, Ross Douthat. Was it Ross Douthat, do you suppose? Was it
Peter
maybe...
Baker?
I don't know. Brett Stevens? Brett
said on his show Tuesday that the war in Iran was crazy.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
And had left Americans feeling betrayed by President Trump.
Americans. Mm-hmm.
Describing the conflict as a sharp reversal from the policies that the president had campaigned on. It just seems so insane.
Said
Mr. Rogan, who endorsed Mr. Trump in 2024 and speaks at a 5th grade reading level. And that's not in there. Mm-hmm. And said he still texts with Trump on occasion. He ran on no more wars and these stupid, senseless wars. And then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it. Mr. Rogan, that's a 3-year-old talking.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogan gave Mr. Trump a boost in the final days of his 2024 campaign, taping a friendly 3-hour interview with him and then delivering an endorsement on the eve of the election. Also, shit-canning Kamala.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You made
scheduling issues. No.
You made this decision. You chose to do this, and this is the 3rd time he's running for office, and you still did it. You fucking still did it.
Yep. And you look like a fucking idiot, and you are one.
Well,
Joe
now
Rogan.
He does, doesn't he?
Yep. Now you're going to try to make it crazy, insane, betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
You betrayed your audience, Joe Rogan.
Yes, you did, and your country.
Mm-hmm. And going out back to the New York fucking Times. But he has sometimes criticized the president since he returned to office and has appeared increasingly skeptical of the administration. Those are 2 words, skeptical and administration, that Joe Rogan doesn't use on his show because they're too long.
Mm-hmm.
In recent months. In December, Mr. Rogan described a new plaque in the White House criticizing former President Joseph Biden Jr. as so crazy.
So he's got a 30-word vocabulary.
Yeah. And in January, he said the shooting of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent in Minneapolis seemed, quote, all kinds of wrong. Comparing the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota's largest city to the actions of the Gestapo in Nazi Germany.
Unquote.
Unquote. Sorry, unquote.
Yeah. And please note what Joe Rogan is not saying, because this is endemic now on the people who feel that they've been bamboozled or betrayed. He's not saying that he was a muscle-headed dope and his judgment is terrible. He's not saying that all the warning signs about Trump were right out there from the beginning and obvious all along, and anybody could see it who would bother to look. Instead, he was betrayed. He was bamboozled. Nobody could have seen this coming.
And I want to interrupt you for just a moment, because over at Media Matters, there is a video of one of these right-wing streamers, gamer streamers, who mixes gaming with politics. And I'm sorry I don't remember his name. He's third tier.
Yeah.
But he played a video of Trump campaigning in 2024 on turning Iran into rubble.
Right.
And he said on his channel, and this is why Media Matters ran it, and he's very anti-Jew. I mean, this guy is a conservative. There's no doubt about it. But he's mad at Trump for the same reason Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes are. You're letting the Jews lead you around by the nose. That's his message.
That's his message. Not our message.
Not our message, his message. But this streamer ran video of Trump saying, I'm going to blow Iran to smithereens unless they behave themselves. And this guy said, and this little segment of it, you and I could agree with, Driftglass. Those of you who said you didn't vote for this, you weren't listening.
Oh my God. Did he just do a no fair remembering stuff?
He did a no fair remembering stuff, and with receipts.
Yeah.
Here's Trump on the campaign trail saying, smithereens Iran.
Yeah.
You weren't listening. That's why.
You didn't want to hear. You did
not want to hear that this was actually going to happen.
And you didn't want to hear it coming out of the mouth of a black woman.
Right.
Especially didn't want to hear it out of her mouth.
You didn't want to hear anything coming out of it. You didn't want 4 years of a black woman running the country. Yeah.
No, preferably 8 years, but that's neither here nor there. But of course, and we've been through this many, many times. Republicans don't do guilt or blame.
Nope.
They do not accept the fact. This is what, and we've talked about this on just a very recent podcast, that Donald Trump gave them absolution for the Iraq War.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you, Driftglass.
Sure.
This is exactly what I wanted to ask you. Trump gave them absolution for Iraq.
Right.
Who is going to give them absolution for Trump?
Somebody will.
Everybody will.
You can see them crowded.
Everybody in the mainstream media will.
Well,
all of CBS will. At
some point, in the next 6 months or 8 months or 2 years, do I'm not sure it exists anymore, LexisNexis search on the word betrayed.
Yeah.
Or lied to or whatever. And you're going to find a shit ton of all the right-wing influencers who have insane numbers of followers and make crazy amounts of money, all swearing to God that they were betrayed, misled, bamboozled, and the three-card Montied into doing something. And if only they'd been warned, if only someone had told them that this was going to happen, they wouldn't have voted for Kamala, of course, because that's impossible. No. But they would have voted for a third party. They would have stayed home or whatever. But they certainly wouldn't have voted for Trump.
I think there's going to be a lot of erasure of brain cells if Trump dies.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All of a sudden, it'll be the once great man, fell, and near the end, he might not have been 100%, but he was way better than the alternative, and they'll put him on a pedestal. It'll
be Khrushchev weeping over the grave of Stalin, and the great man has, and a bunch of widows will be weeping for him, and a bunch of MAGA people will hold their hats over their hearts, and the MAGA choir will sing, the J7 choir will sing,
the J6 choir,
and it'll just be horrifying, and we'll all just go, make it stop. But you will see an absolutely rich market of suckers and deflectors and chumps, and like I wrote back in 2005, 6, 7, when it was George Bush.
Yeah.
They'll burn their uniforms and swear they never did it, and there'll be a market for someone like Dick Armey to come along and say, I've got now the Trump off machine.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a new brand name, a new look. You're going to give you new hair. Our leader, our glorious leader, Marjorie Taylor Greene, will lead you, out of the wilderness and back to power, because it wasn't your fault. you were lied to.
She told the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what another thing you hear, and I've heard this on Never Trump podcasts, I don't know how many times. And I've heard this on their focus groups. I don't know how many times. You can't blame the voter.
Yeah.
You can't blame the voter. These people are very busy. Well, of course we can. They're very busy people. They're very, very busy people. They pay no attention to anything. They have no idea what's going on. They have no clue how their country is run. They couldn't name their congressperson. But at the same time, it's very important that we look at the media very closely and see exactly what's going on at CBS and NBC. Well, why? If these fucking idiots don't pay any attention to anything, if nothing matters to them, who the fuck cares who's running Fox? Doesn't matter to anybody. Who cares who's running CBS? It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, right.
And so we're just having little arguments among ourselves. But this whole thing that the voters aren't responsible for their fucking decision. But you know who is responsible? Democratic voters are.
Oh, yeah.
Democratic voters are always responsible for everything we do. Anything any Democrat anywhere does is every Democrat's responsibility to deny or explain or deflect.
Merck's Law. This is Merck's Law.
And so I am heartily sick of that. And I wish I had, just for 1 week, 10 million more listeners to this podcast, because I want to scream from the rooftop, either all voters are responsible as adults for their decisions or no one is. Pick one.
Yeah.
And if no one is, let's just give it up and go do miniature golf or something.
Right.
But if people are responsible for what they choose to do, then Republicans have a long butcher's bill going back to Bush 1 for the decisions they made and the terrible things they've done. Anyway.
Well, and we don't have time to get into when we say people, do we just mean white men?
Right.
But that is an entire podcast.
Yeah.
White conservative men given the lead, white straight conservative men.
Yes.
Put at the top and left there, and everybody else has to deal. Mm-hmm. And that's why Joe Rogan can get away with monosyllabic, this is crazy, this is insane.
He's just asking questions.
Betrayed.
He's just asking questions, Blue Guy. He's just asking questions. He's curious.
Is this crazy? Mm-hmm. I don't even know anymore. Yeah.
So how, as we all know, let's all sing it together. How do Republicans cope when their bullshit lies and conspiracies collapse, Blue Guy? How do they do it? They build even bigger bullshit lies and bigger conspiracies to contain the ones that have just fallen apart. Because across all time and all space and all dimensions, the one constant among all Republicans, whether they're Never Trump Republicans or whether they're MAGA Republicans or America First Republicans or Romney Republicans, doesn't matter. Nothing can ever, ever, ever be their fault.
Right.
Fuck them. Yep. You know what? I need to clear my palate. So let's do a news roundup.
Oh, all right. These are a few stories we snagged out of the fire hose for you. Daniel Dale is back doing yeoman's work at CNN. Mm-hmm. Quote, fact check Trump's latest false, unproven, and contradictory claims about the Iran war. President Donald Trump pushing back at the suggestion that the U.S. was responsible for a deadly strike on an elementary school in Iran, claimed at a press conference Monday that Iran has Tomahawk cruise missiles. Trump's claim was immediately rejected by arms experts. Trump made the claim after a reporter told him that video footage showed a Tomahawk missile likely destroyed that Iranian girl's school, and asked, so will the U.S. accept any responsibility? You know the answer to that one. There has never been an indication that Iran has any Tomahawks, which are made by U.S. defense manufacturer Raytheon for the U.S. military, subject to strict export controls and not the generic product Trump claimed Monday.
Yeah, you can go down to the 7-Eleven.
Secret.
You go to the 7-Eleven White Hen, you can buy a 6-pack of Tomahawks for like $9. $9.
Do they sell them at Harbor Freight? I want to take my Tomahawk back and get another one.
Yeah, well, they first of all, yeah, you got a lifetime guarantee. Secondly, it's not Tomahawk; it's the Bauer version of the Tomahawk. But it's nearly as good, and you get that guarantee. And,
well, the ones at Farm and Home are better, but you can't do that return policy. That's the thing.
My understanding is that the Iranians are bought a bunch of insider track memberships, so they get like a 30% discount. At least that's my understanding.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Uh-huh.
There has never been an indication that Iran had any tomahawks. Iran definitely does not, repeat, does not have tomahawks. Jeffrey Lewis, distinguished scholar of global security at Middlebury College, said in a text message Monday evening, astonishing, bald-faced lying, childish, tweeted retired U.S. Army General Barry McCaffrey, a Trump critic, in response to the Trump claim, unquote.
Yeah, this is
no word on what happened to Raytheon stock.
No.
That next day.
Well, and this is Alex Preddy all over again. This is Renee Good all over again.
Yeah.
The immediate reaction from Republicans. This is not just Trump. This is every Republican I know. When they're caught doing something terrible, when the evidence is right there, is immediately lie about it.
Yep.
Just tell the biggest, baldest no, they were terrorists. They were domestic terrorists. And then, of course, you end up with the media chasing that story around because, got to have both sides. Who knows? It's controversial. We have to look into this thing.
He says this, but experts say something else. And I voted for Trump because he's not a politician.
And by the time they catch up with what actually happened, they've moved 3 lies down the road.
Right.
But this is war. They're lying about why we're there, what we're doing there, how many people are being killed there, for what purpose, what the fucking plan is, because they don't have any of those things. This is Trump acting on impulse because he likes to blow shit up. Yes. And now we're stuck with it. And all the mistakes are going to be like this. I swear to God, they're all going to be immediate reactive lies, which some honest people are going to have to track down. And it's going to be like this until Republicans don't exist anymore. There's no more Republican Party because this is just who the fuck they are.
And when the Senate flips, in this fall, knock wood.
Fingers crossed. Knock wood.
Run outside, spit in the snow.
Yeah.
There's going to be a tidal wave of resignations and people, moving to California or moving to some obscure Christian Bible college to hide.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Let's because we're doing signs and portents. I know there was a meteor. I know it was spectacular, but let's not do too many predictions about what's happening when the Senate flips. However, I want you to act like this is the secret. You're putting it out there in the universe that there should be a flip in the Senate, strong enough to overcome what I'm going to call the Fetterman boot on because you heard him say that his near-death experience changed him. Yeah, he told I think John. Who was? I forget. It was Bill Maher. He said, my near-death experience caused progressivism to leave me, and now I've changed. And some wag, and I will just say I'm repeating what they said, but it made me smile. Says, there it is. Brain damage causes conservatism. Anyway, back to Daniel Dale. Again, doing yeoman's work. Quote, Trump also spoke about the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for oil being transported from the Persian Gulf by ship, after Trump noted that the U.S. is now offering risk insurance to oil tankers operating in the Gulf, and said, you have to keep the straits flowing. He added, with all of that, it affects other countries much more than it does the United States. It doesn't really affect us. We have so much oil. We have tremendous oil and gas, much more than we need. It's not true that it doesn't really affect us, as many Americans filling up their gas tanks in the past weeks have learned. The sharp decline in traffic through the straits during the war amid Iranian threats to attack ships that dare to cross has been a major contributor to the sharp increase in global oil prices, unquote. One more thing I did learn today, a whole bunch of fertilizer that farmers need to grow crops in America comes from where? From the Middle East.
Oh, my God.
And has to come through, and like 45% of the total supply comes from that location. Oh, so they're looking at not being able to grow crops or massive cutback. The rest, there's a huge percentage that goes to China. It's produced by China, but they're looking after themselves. They're not looking after us. It's just this. We talked about this the last episode, the cascade effect of this on all the other industries, on all the other people, on things you and I never thought about, because this isn't our job to think of these things through, but it is somebody's job. And nobody in this fucking White House thought about this at all. Didn't consider it for one goddamn second.
Also, this from CNN, quote, as CNN's Aaron Blake noted Monday, Trump repeatedly contradicted himself in other remarks at the press conference. At one point, Trump claimed, "We've wiped every single force in Iran out very completely," but then claimed in the very next sentence that most, not all, of Iran's naval power had been sunk. He went on to claim there had been an over 90% decline in the Iranian missile launchers and an 83% drop in drone launchers. Again, not a total wipeout. Definitive independent data on these claims is not available. Trump also said, look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. Then he said immediately after, in fact, there are 2 levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that, but 2 levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. But Iranians and observers of the country have certainly heard of the newly appointed supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, who was killed at the beginning of the war. And Iran's governing regime continues to function even after the death of Ali Khamenei and other top officials, unquote.
Because
it's like, he hasn't watched Designated Survivor.
No.
He doesn't think that applies to Iran.
You think everything's like the Trump Corporation. There's just me and like 4 people, and that's it. The whole company is just us 4 guys.
Yeah.
This is from The Hill. Trump's advice to oil tanker crews who were justifiably nervous about trying to traverse the Straits of Hormuz. Quote, "These ships should just go through the Strait of Hormuz and show some guts. There's nothing to be afraid of," unquote.
Oh, my God.
But what about the bone spurs on the oil tankers, Donald?
Ooh.
Maybe they should stay out of combat because they have those nasty...
There.
I did.
You went there.
He's a physical coward as well as a moron, a racist, corrupt scumbag, and very probable pedophile.
Uh-huh. And statutory rapist and regular rapist. Multiple rape times.
That your Republican friends and neighbors voted for 3 times.
Because they thought he was Cyrus.
Yeah.
They told themselves. Okay. That's an important point. They told themselves.
Yes, they did.
That's political masturbation is a thing they do.
Mm-hmm.
From The Guardian, and I love this man I'm going to talk about now. I think he's got guts, and I think he's got integrity. CBS News' Scott MacFarlane leaves network. I look forward to some independence. He doesn't mean independent. He means independence from Barry Weiss. Justice correspondent most known for his January 6th Capitol riot coverage is latest to quit Barry Weiss-led network. Considering his extensive coverage of the Capitol insurrection, and also the trials afterwards. MacFarlane was said to be frustrated with the network's decision to air only a brief mention, derided by some as evincing a both sides focus on its 5th anniversary in early January. President Trump today accused Democrats of failing to prevent the attack on the Capitol, while House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries accused the president of whitewashing it. It's both sides, see? Mm-hmm. Tony Dokapil, a CBS Evening News anchor, said during the January 6, 2026 episode of the CBS Evening News.
It's controversial. There are opinions on both sides, Blue Gal. We just have to give them both airtime.
Outspoken.
Yeah.
Outspoken, Driftglass. MacFarlane was pissed that they barely marked January 6th and both sidesed it during Tony's roadshow. A CBS News colleague who was not authorized to comment told The Guardian, unquote.
This is from the New York fucking Times. Quote, Trump demanded Iran's unconditional surrender, even as a classified U.S. intelligence assessment concluded that even a large-scale military assault was unlikely to lead to regime change in Iran, unquote.
I don't believe Donald Trump has read a classified U.S. intelligence assessment in his entire 2 terms as president.
Why would he? It's got a lot of words in it. Just summarize it for me. It says you're great. Read. It says you're great, and everything you do is great, and it's the greatest ever.
I wrote one of those for Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Bomb, American, very powerful. And it was in Comic Sans.
Yeah, that's his briefing. I swear to you, that's what he's told every day.
Yep. This is from the Indy Star North. Quote, Indiana will no longer track where teens under 18-year-olds are working, further unraveling guardrails aimed at ensuring compliance with child labor laws and protecting minors from labor exploitation, unquote.
Because it doesn't just stop with war and Epstein files. They're all terrible people, Blue Gal. Energy Secretary Chris Wright claimed in a social media post that the U.S. Navy had safely escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. And then this happened, as reported in Politico. Quote, U.S. official, not true. Trump administration officials denied a claim from Energy Secretary Chris Wright in a now deleted social media post Tuesday that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. official told Politico before Levitt's press briefing that Wright's post was not true. Crude prices tumbled below $80 a barrel on Wright's announcement before jumping up again after it was deleted. Unquote.
Fucking with the market.
It certainly looks that way.
From the New Republic, quote, Pete Hegseth blew billions on fruit basket stands, chairs, and crab.
Yeah.
Not the kind of crabs I want him to get either.
Yeah. This is just you know what they didn't blow it on? Ammunition. Missiles.
Yes.
Stuff to do war fighting with.
The Defense Department went on a $93 billion spending spree in 2025. The Pentagon spent more money in September, the end of the 2025 fiscal year, than it had in any other year since 2008. But a good chunk of the budget wasn't used for anything that could be considered a pertinent military expense. I've read in other articles about this that this is typical, that the Defense Department needs to spend their money by the end of the term.
Oh, can I just say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a principal. My mom was a teacher.
Yeah.
And my dad's school had like a storage room full of AV equipment.
Yeah.
Hardly ever used, because if you didn't spend your budget this year, they would assume you didn't need it and cut you back next year.
Yep.
So the end of the year was always just to rush out and buy shit to justify the fact that you had the budget.
And that's what happens at the Defense Department. And they need to find a better way to do this, because as one source I read said, every September is Amazon Prime Week.
Yeah.
It's just buy everything to spend that money out the door. And so the Defense Department, or the War Department under Pete Hegseth, burned through $93 billion in September of 2025 alone, signing checks left and right in order to dry up its congressionally allocated budget, which was more than the Pentagon asked for. Remember that.
Exactly. Yep.
According to a recent analysis by the government watchdog group Open the Books, some of the frivolous September purchases made under Secretary Pete Hegseth's stewardship include a $98,329 Steinway & Sons grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff's home. That could have bought my 3 years of health insurance, Driftglass.
It could have,
just that
absolutely.
piano.
Mm-hmm.
$5.3 million for Apple devices such as the new iPad, and an astronomical amount of shellfish, including $2 million for Alaskan king crab and $6.9 million worth of lobster tail. Lobster tail is apparently a favorite of Hegseth's Pentagon. The department spent more than $7.4 million total on the luxury item in March, May, June, and October. In other pricey food purchases, the government decided to drop $15.1 million for ribeye steak. Well, you got to have surf and turf.
Yeah, that's the surf and turf. You got to have
that's
both.
just science.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just in September, 1 month, $15.1 million for ribeye.
Mm-hmm.
$124,000 for ice cream machines. And now look, if those ice cream machines are going to the troops,
great.
$124,000, well worth it. Got it. $139,224 on 272 orders of donuts. Weeks later, millions of Americans would lose their SNAP benefits amid the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. More still stand to lose eligibility to the food assistance program thanks to a Republican crusade that added stricter work requirements to the program, piling on paperwork and documentation mandates. Unquote. Again, how many ACA subsidies could have been paid with just the lobster budget?
Well, and once you tally all this up, the billion plus that's being spent every month. After how many months would it pay for the entire year of ACA subsidies?
Right. And food stamps.
Which we couldn't afford. We can't afford because, we're on a budget, Blue Gal. We're on a budget.
Can't afford Head Start. Can't afford universal pre-K.
Can't afford anything. Yep. So Pete Hegseth is now, I believe, in the running as the biggest welfare queen in history.
Right.
Because he is doing exactly what Reagan used to accuse, eating those ribeye steaks on the government dime.
And lobster on the government dime.
Right. Fuck them all. Fuck them all. Even People magazine, can you believe it? Even People magazine is scoring off these corrupt, dumbass thieves. Quote, and I love the metric they're using to talk about excess in the government. Kristi Noem's $220 million Homeland Security ad blitz dwarfed the budgets of these 2026 Best Picture nominees. Controversy, love that word.
Oh, say controversial one more goddamn time.
Controversy over the massive government contracts Noem awarded for the ad campaign was reportedly one of the last straws in Trump's decision to fire her.
No, it wasn't. People magazine's wrong. It was 2 bad interviews with Congress that did it, period. Yeah.
And saying that everything I did because Trump told me to.
Yeah.
You never blame the boss for
Stephen
the boss.
Miller. Yeah. Blame Stephen Miller. Yeah.
November 2025, ProPublica reported that part of the massive taxpayer-funded budget for the ad blitz went to a company called Strategy Group, which is just the most innocuous name ever, which it means it's evil, which has worked extensively with Noem in the past. The CEO of Strategy Group is Ben Yoho, the husband of Noem's former spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin. Yeah, keep that money local.
I wonder if they got to sleep on the plane.
I bet they did. Or did they get to use the bidets? I wonder if they got to use
the bidets. His and her bidets. I don't know.
The ad campaign, which notably features Noem riding a horse intercut with images of Trump and stock footage of police and military force, cost more than nearly every film nominated for Best Picture at the upcoming 2026 Academy Awards. Her stupid fucking commercial cost more than almost all the pictures. Only F1, the Brad Pitt starring Apple-funded blockbuster about the billion-dollar racing industry, cost more to produce and market than Noem's warning about the consequences for illegal immigration, unquote.
Wow. F1 was more expensive than you, Kristi Noem.
Yeah, by a smidge, I'm imagining. By a smidge.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Each week we post to our Patreon page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Goldie. Goldie is a sweet, fluffy calico, and she's a bit skittish, but once you win her heart, she'll freely sleep belly up to show how much she trusts those who love her. And of course, Goldie eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your cat will flip belly up and demand that you fill that belly with freshly poured cat food. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Goldie at our Patreon page, patreon.com/ProLeftPod, or our website, proleftpod.com. It's up there in the upper right corner of our website. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
And you know what? We're not going to ask you for $15.1 million for ribeye steaks. No, we wouldn't do that. We're not going to ask you for $2 million for Alaskan king crab or $5 million for Apple devices such as a new iPad. We're not going to ask you for any of that because that's frivolous and dumb and wasteful, and we would never do that. But we would like to remind you that we do have a little thing called a gourmet coffee guideline. If you're able to treat yourself to just one espresso-based beverage, not $15 million of ribeye, just one little coffee. We asked,
and not a bunch of donuts. Like, how much donuts was it, Driftglass?
I dropped that note, Blue Gal.
No, 272 orders of donuts for $139,224. We're not asking for that.
No. No. Although, donuts go great with coffee. Dunkers, as they were called back in the Depression era when I didn't live. But if you're able to treat yourself to an espresso-based beverage or something similar, we ask you to consider treating us to one as well. Because this isn't charity. This is how we support the work we do. If you can spare just $5 a month or more, we'd be very grateful for your support at patreon.com/proleftpod or on Venmo. And then you go looking for The Professional Left and you'll find us there. Please help us to continue to grow by also sharing this show on social media, which is very hard to say because there's a lot of S's in that sentence, but I managed to do it, Blue Gal. So
you did. Congratulations.
Thanks. If you love this podcast, if whoever wrote this, I need to speak to them about too much sibilance in my sentences. Oh, that's me. I wrote this shit.
You wrote this shit.
Introduce it to a friend. Hook it up with a friend. They'll thank you for it. Thank you so much for helping us to keep this little thing of ours going.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, here's a fun fact for you. Unlike paid political pundits, the Internet Kitties have proven remarkably good at predicting the immediate future. They can tell you exactly when food will arrive in their bowls, exactly when hairballs will arrive on the floor, and exactly when it's time to wrestle.
11 o'clock at night.
Let's think about living. Let's think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the loving, lovey-doving. Let's forget about the whine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is produced and recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright DGBG Productions. ProLeftPod.com.